Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I make videos about witchcraft, paganism, spirituality, the occult, and other related topics, so feel free to hit subscribe if that sounds like something interesting to you. Today's video, as per my headscarf, is going to be all about the sun deities, and other correspondences, and how you can connect with solar energy. And if you have ways that you can connect with solar energy that I didn't mention, feel free to comment them. So, the sun is a very important celestial body in witchcraft, and not everyone has to work with it. You know, witchcraft is a very personal path. You don't have to really do like specific things, except for, there's some exceptions, but you know what I mean. But it is an important thing that you can work with, and it can be really beneficial to work with. It can revitalize you, cleanse you, it brings life, and it represents the ultimate polarity because it can both cause healing and it can cause destruction, and I see that as the ultimate balance between polarities. Now, in a lot of religions, pagan and neo-pagan, especially neo-pagan religions, the sun is seen as masculine, and in a lot of religions it's seen as feminine. I don't see it as either, I see it as both. I don't like to impose masculine and feminine on the sun and the moon, but depending on your tradition, that may vary. So it's really totally up to you whether you add those masculine and feminine ideas into your craft or not. Really depends on your preferences and on your tradition. Now, let's talk about a couple correspondences. The day of the week associated with the sun, of course, is Sunday. And the sun rules over kind of the real self when it comes to ourselves. And also in astrology, our sun sign is the sign that like everybody knows. Although I'd say that that's not the most important sign, but it's worth noting. I'm sure most of you already know that, but if you didn't, that's what that is. We have a sun sign, a moon sign, a rising sign, and we have signs for each planet and more. The sun also rules the astrological sign of Leo. As for spells it is good for, and also spells that are good to do on Sundays correspondingly, or when the moon is in Leo, if you work with astrology and planetary hours and stuff like that. It is good for healing, especially when it comes to your spiritual and mental health, but any kind of healing it can help with. Protection, especially for your community and for your family. Prosperity, happiness, joy, charging, and kind of giving energy to certain items, especially if they're kind of solar corresponded items. And ritual tools and things like that. But just beware with charging crystals. Crystals like amethyst will fade in the sun. So just check your crystals and whether or not the sunlight is good for them or not. I always charge these under the full moon, and any kind of crystals that shouldn't go under the sun. And then I charge more solar crystals, let's say tiger's eye or goldstone or anything like that. I charge those under the sun. And of course, all solar herbs are associated with the sun. So chamomile is an example of that, cinnamon, same with incenses. Frankincense is associated with the sun, those types of herbs. And if you're unsure of whether or not a herb is solar, you can either go with your intuition or you can look it up. Now, let's talk about deities associated with the sun. First, we've got Brigid, and she is a Celtic deity from Ireland and Gaelic Scotland. And there are variations of her beyond those as well. And, you know, there are different names and stuff, but we're going to just refer to her as Brigid. After Christianization, she was made into Saint Brigid in Ireland, but she is a goddess. She is a pagan goddess of healing, music, poetry, prophecy, smithcraft, and she also rules over fire and water, and she is also associated with the sun. And she is heavily associated with the festival of Imbolc, which marks the beginning of, the beginning of spring and the end of winter. And speaking of Imbolc, of the 8 celebrations in the Wheel of the Year, 4 of them are based on the movement of the sun in relation to the earth. The other 4 are fire festivals. Now, let's move on to another deity. Amateraso, also known as Amateraso Omikami, from the Shinto religion of Japan, is the kami of the sun. And she is a provider and a protector, and in mythology, she was the first to cultivate rice, and she is also credited with inventing and teaching the art of weaving. Of course, we have Apollo in Greece, who many of you have probably heard of, most likely all of you, and he is the god of healing, poetry, music, hunting, prophecy, and the sun. And he is the son of Zeus and Leto, although there are variations on this. But Zeus did have many children outside of his marriage with Hera, which was a catalyst for a lot of the conflicts in Greek mythology. Another famous one was Hercules or Heracles, and yeah, a lot of the conflicts in his story were caused by the fact that he was born outside of Zeus and Hera's marriage, and naturally she was upset, and I don't blame her. Next, we've got Helios, also from Greece, from the Hellenic pantheon. He is the sun. He is the personification of the sun, and he sees all that occurs during daylight. And he rides across his chariot that kind of represents sunrise, and then goes back at the end of the day. And he is the illuminator. His wife's name is Perse, and some of his children are Circe or Kirke, Phaeton, Pasiphae, and he has a few others as well. And if you've read the fictional, this isn't based on real myth, although it does draw from it. If you read this fictional novel, Kirke or Circe, however you pronounce it, Helios is mentioned here heavily because he is her father. So I love this novel. It's one of my favorite ones. So yeah. The next deity we are going to talk about is Baltic. This one is actually a goddess, is known as Sole. If I am pronouncing that incorrectly, feel free to correct me. And she is a sun goddess, and her name translates to the sun. And once again, she is a personification of the sun. She is also the mother of all of the planets, and she also drives a chariot like Helios does. And now that we've kind of gone over a few solar deities, although there are many more, let's go over the sun tarot card symbolism. And actually, I'm going to find the sun card in my deck and kind of use it as a reference point. And you can get the sun card out of your tarot deck if you do use tarot, if you want to do this. Now, this is not the classical Rider-Waite deck that most people use. This is actually the Gilded Tarot, and it is one of my favorite tarot decks. Now, I'll probably put a picture up of the Rider-Waite version because, you know, a lot of the original imagery is pretty important of what I'm going to be talking about. But this is the Gilded Tarot version, and I find it very beautiful, as with all of the artwork in this deck. Now, the sun card corresponds to the Kabbalistic letter Resh. And if you don't know, tarot and Kabbalah are very much intertwined. So if you want to really look and learn deeper into the tarot, I'd suggest learning about Kabbalah as well. And Kabbalah really influences a lot of Western esotericism and a lot of traditions in general. Its tree of life pathway is between Yesod and Hod, and its direction is south, as you'd probably imagine. And it is generally a positive card, so any spread that it appears in, it kind of makes it positive in a sense. That's kind of the belief that most people hold. And I do kind of agree, even if, for example, if you draw a spread that indicates you're going through obstacles and a rough time, there is something to be learned of it, or there is a silver lining. And that is kind of what the sun may indicate in a reading. And it also represents piercing through confusion, leading to illumination, leading to brightness, and it's generally a very positive card. So those are the sun correspondences for the tarot card. Now, one way that you can connect with solar energy, so we're moving on to that now, is I'm just going to start off with the tarot card thing because we were just talking about it. You can meditate with tarot cards and you can do spell work with them. You don't have to only do readings with them. So you can meditate with the sun card and really feel out its energy. One thing I like to do if I want to really feel out the energy of something, whether that's a spirit or a tarot card or a crystal, is I meditate with it for 30 minutes. If it's a spirit, I might carve their sigil, if they have one, into a candle and meditate with them, or something of that sort. If it's a crystal, I'll hold it. If it's a tarot card, I'll hold it or place it in front of me. It's really up to you how you do it, and you can visualize it. And that's one way you can connect with that sun energy, because the sun tarot card is inextricably, obviously linked to the sun. Another really easy thing you can do is sunbathing. That one is actually fun, not for everyone because you might get hot, but that's a good thing. Just make sure you wear sunscreen and you protect yourself. Another thing is you can work with solar plants and solar crystals. For plant correspondences, I definitely recommend Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. I have it as an ebook, which is why I'm putting it up here like this, or however I end up putting it up when I edit. And that one's really good, and it'll actually tell you what's a solar and what's a lunar herb. But if you're working with a herb and you really feel like it's solar, even though it's not the traditional correspondence, you can totally work with it in that way, because ultimately it's your practice and how you connect to that herb. However, I do think correspondences are important, but I also think that it's okay to improvise if something doesn't feel right to you. Another thing that you can do, of course, is meditate with solar crystals. And, you know, again, you can look up those correspondences if you like. And I believe Scott Cunningham has a book on stones and metals, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking of metals, you can also wear gold or meditate with it, or just work with gold in general. Also pyrite, which is known as fool's gold. Those are really good for connecting with that energy because they're deeply connected to the sun. Of course, you can work with like yellow flowers, especially sunflowers, of course. Those are heavily connected to the sun. You can, of course, connect with a solar deity if you feel so inclined, such as one of the ones I discussed earlier, or a different one within your tradition, or one that you're just interested in that I didn't mention. You can even do art magic and paint or draw the sun if you're into art in a meditative state and really try to connect to its energy in that way. You can even do this outside, so you're underneath the sun, any kind of thing like that. Another good practice is sun salutations, and not every religion or practice has these, so, you know, but you can also totally make your own if you want to. But one example of a sun salutation is Resh, which is seen in Thelema, and a lot of Thelemites do that every day, and that's a really good one that you can do if you're a Thelemite, or if you draw from Thelema, or, you know, art like that type of thing. Another thing you can do is work with oils that are traditionally associated with the sun. You can make your own oil. You can take whatever solar oils and herbs that call to you the most, pour carrier oil into a bottle, and put those oils and herbs in if you'd like, and anoint yourself with that to connect with the sun. You can even do that in dedication to a solar deity and use that oil, which a lot of people do. And I kind of show you how I make oil blends. It's super easy. If you know how to make them, you don't have to watch it. I mean, you don't have to watch it, period, but you know what I mean. in my video how I set up my candle spells, which I'll put up here, I do show you guys how I make my oil blend. So if you're interested in that, you can totally look into that. And yeah, those are a few ways that you can connect with solar energy if you're interested in that. And before I go, I just want to show y'all some of the books that I used in reference to this. So the first one is the Pagan Book of Days. This one is really great for like celebrations, for holidays, for learning about different days associated with different things and the historical celebrations and such. So I highly recommend this book. Another one is Tarot Mysteries by John Dee. I really like this book. I just got it recently. And I'm, working through it, and I really enjoy it. It's really great for learning in the tarot more deeply, and it also talks about the history of the tarot and such, and it's really well researched, and I definitely recommend it. Another one for correspondences other than Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs is Modern Witch by Devin Hunter. So this book goes by section to section. It goes by like the type of magic, like love magic, healing magic, protection magic, financial magic, etc. It has correspondences for each intention, I guess you'd call it, and then it also has spells for those. So this book is really great. It's also really beautiful. I really love the photography in it, so definitely check it out. And lastly, the Encyclopedia of Spirits by Judika Isles. This was one of my references for the deities, although not the only one. This book is really good for a starting point, and like if you're interested in learning about different spirits and deities, and it's a good kind of jumping pad. I don't know what they, not landing pad, I don't know what they call it. But it's an encyclopedia, so it has like a passage on each deity or spirit or type of spirit, but I don't think your research should end there. I think it should be a starting point. So let's say you learn about Brigid, right? And there's kind of a whole page and a half dedicated to her. Well, once you do that, look into the mythology, the myths that she's in. I have a book called Celtic Myths and Legends, so if you want to learn about Celtic deities, you can read something of that manner, and just really learn about their mythology, their cultural context, and get to know the deity or the spirit that you're working with. So this book is a really great quick reference book, and also a great starting point for learning about a whole bunch of different deities and spirits. And yeah, those are all of my references for today. I hope I gave some good suggestions. If you have more suggestions, feel free to comment them. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching, and blessed be. Bye.